Barbershop Podcast, coming from the frozen north of Hamilton, Ontario on this February 5th. That's the date, right, Ryan?
Sure. It is now.
It is now, 2014, from Boxo Studio. We're bringing you some more folklore and some more great music. And I don't know what else we bring into the show tonight, Ryan.
Huge beards.
Huge winter beards. I'm like, worse than a chick who won't do her legs. I just kind of stopped caring.
Me too. It's great when you're clearing the driveway of snow. It's a little bit of added warmth.
It comes in handy. It's been a long, cold winter. We've got a bunch of weeks to go, but it's hot in the house tonight.
Yep.
Now, you know these guys better than me.
I do. I know one of them.
You know one of them. But
the other guy I just met tonight.
Well,
he seems all right.
He seems all right.
He seems like he's pretty cool.
He should stick with it. I think there's a future for him in this business. So we've got the Honorable Al Packham, whose musical story is ranging over many decades, and there's quite a few in his wake. We're going to hear about it because he goes at music hard. From the heart, honestly, and speaks the truth and does it at 11, as they say, on the amplifier. And Mr. Brent Doerner, who, if you're familiar with Canadian music and a little bit of a little band called Helix, you may be familiar with him. But they're in here as friends and people who've worked together, fans of the show, and at least right now, proud Hamiltonians. How are you doing tonight, guys?
Excellent. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. All things considered, with the snow and the lack of vital necessities, which is mainly boobies. You don't see any of them in the wintertime.
Cool about the studio too is being down in the basement, and it's obviously soundproof. You can't hear the dog sled team that got us here.
No, and they're busy tonight, aren't they? You went on the king sled, right?
Yeah.
Funny enough. And Brent, do you? How are you doing tonight? Are you in good spirits? Did you get socked by this sickness that's killing everyone?
Because I'm not out there on the road anymore and flying around, I don't get sick hardly anymore. Because, going to the airport, it's like shaking hands with the whole world, right? So there's just like, I'd leave the house healthy on Friday morning, and I come home sick as a dog with the flu every Sunday, right?
Right.
Yeah, you just, and you can't not shake people's hands, so...
Yeah, and just the number of doorknobs. I mean, I can't imagine, even though it's legitimate, having to go through with a napkin in your hand, or because if you could cover your ass 600 times, there'd be one time that you'd miss.
We're talking about actual doorknobs.
Yeah, no, I'm not actually. I'm not actually sure. At this point. We're working on a little mic issue with you right now, so we're gonna start off talking with Brent. Okay, and it's like and it's probably conspiracy, because I did see him over there at fiddling with the microphone before the show. I think it's clearly he's upstaging you. That's what it is. He hired someone from the grassy knoll to come and.
Hey, that's for nothing. Wait till you do something.
To do something. I often want to.
I guarantee I'll piss you off within this next hour and 20 minutes.
When we have people come in, we usually one of the first questions we ask is, how did music discover you? How did music slip into your life, and at what age do you remember it being kind of a profound thing? Do you remember?
I do.
This ain't working yet.
It's going now.
Is?
So now we can, So
okay.
Let's start with you, alphabetical. A,
What
B.
was the question?
Music is a wonderful thing. It comes into your life. It makes you want to dance.
It does.
Sometimes it's something that was brought to you by your family. Sometimes you find it yourself. What was your story?
Two things that changed me as a youngster, and one was at Center Mall when I was, maybe 10, 9, something like that, a little kid, and Sears record section, LPs, those round disc things.
Remember them well.
I seen Kiss's Destroyer cover, and previous to that, I'd listened to nothing. Elvis Presley, Mom would play, Dad, old school country, Charlie Rich and Charlie Pride, Oak Ridge Boys, and that's not even real old school country, but I think you get the point.
Yeah, there was no new country at that time.
Right.
There was,
and aside from country and Elvis, the only other pop song I ever heard was Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers. Well, then I'd seen that Kiss album, that cover, and I had to have it. Absolutely had to have it. And when I played it, got it when Mom and Dad bought it for me, and I played it, and it was just like, I heard minor chords for the first time in my life, right?
Yes.
And it was stunning.
And the pentatonic scale, I think there was a few little magical notes.
To take it one step further, Alice Cooper went on to the Muppet Show. That changed my life. That I sat there glued to the TV. First just looking at him. And then I'd have to see it again, but what my memory tells me was it was a dungeon-like setup where Kermit was down in the dungeon, and the music kicked in to "Welcome to My Nightmare," the song, and Alice is like doing this, going "Welcome to my nightmare," all creepy like, and Kermit's sitting in the corner. And shaking.
It's been cited that show is like not only like one of the most, if not the highest rated show. Alice Cooper.
It blew my mind.
Really helped his career.
It blew my mind. I that's such a young age, and then. I've always had a thing for theatrical rock since then. Yeah. It's not really the direction I took, but I love it. I love that stuff. And David Bowie, early Bowie, like Ziggy Stardust and that. I really dig that theatrical rock and roll. It's not really the direction I've ever taken personally, stage-wise or anything like that. But that was the beginning.
And when did you start playing, or when did you start?
Late bloomer, actually. Yeah. I got my first garage band. Oh, God, I was probably 19.
Were you singing on the side anywhere? Like, were you in a choir?
Singing in the shower sort of thing, right? That's about it. And then, my buddies started up this little garage band in Smithville, my hometown, and everybody was jumping up and singing. And everybody was jumping up and singing like shit. And I happened to be able to mimic a few people pretty good, almost like a comedian. More baritone level stuff, Jim Morrison, Gord Downey, stuff like that, right?
Right.
And I could mimic them the best, so I got the job. And
how old were you there? Like 13? That seems to be the
no,
more
like 19.
19. That's
more like 19.
Yeah.
Like I said, late bloomer.
Yeah.
That 13 to 19 man was.
Were you a jock? What were you spending your time doing?
No.
Yeah.
No, I was stuck in the arcades and
video games when you had to pay a quarter every time you played. And that's something you kids don't realize. It's like what a drag it was to have to get that quarter out.
Great shit.
It was, but it was a fortune that you pumped down that thing. How many paper routes you out there slogging so you could get to that next level in Space Invaders, fucking pissing you off all the time.
So that was. Oh, sorry.
No, you finish up.
Well, that first garage band, too, what really got me thinking professionally was, so we had my buddy Harv on drums, my buddy Brad and Dan on guitars, and we didn't have a bass player. And
hey, speaking of bass players, isn't Ryan, didn't he used to be a bass player?
He still is.
Did you hear what the bass player got on his IQ test?
No, I didn't.
Saliva.
Well, we should have the sound effects lined up.
I know.
I'm working.
And you're a guitar player, right?
I am.
I'll be on it for the next one.
What do you throw a drowning guitar player?
What do you throw a drowning guitar
Zamp.
player?
Hey,
because it's heavy.
You know what?
I'm in reach.
Now, hey, you got a lead singer here. You know how you can tell when a lead singer is knocking at your front door, Ryan?
How?
It's he can't find the key and he doesn't know when to come in.
A 2 for 1. This is the kind of love that goes around in any band.
We're missing a drummer joke.
In any band. Well, there's the standards ones, how do you know the drummer's at the door? The knocking speeds up,
How do you know the stage is
how
do you know the drum riser, the stage is level? The drummer's drooling out of both sides of his mouth.
See, well, we're back on the drool train, right? We had to
drool rhythm sections kind of goes hand in
anyone
hand,
out there who's got
it?
some good band member abuse jokes, send them into the show right now. Ryan will read them out later on in the show.
To backpedal, what got me really thinking professionally was, so we have this little core group of guys, and we were all green as Kermit. And our buddy Butch went and grabbed our other friend Chip, who was always just once in a while hanging around us, but he was a pro bass player. He was actually on Tommy Hunter. He was Tommy Hunter's bass player when he was like 16.
Wow.
15, 16 years old. He was already on national television. And our buddy Butch bribed him with a bottle of wine to join our band, and he did. And so we had this group of greenhorns.
Why do you have to bribe him? Like, do you want it or don't you want
get his
it?
Irish up,
What's with the bribe?
Well, it worked. Does it matter? The bottom line is it worked. So we had this core of greenhorns with this human metronome. And Chip's been on almost every band I've ever been in, except for Ryan and I's band years ago. I think Chip's been in every band I've ever been in, maybe, except for Freudian and Philosofear. And it was just like...
It kind of changed things.
It did. Yeah. It really, really did. It was an eye-opener. And I just wanted to just keep bettering myself and bettering the musicians around me. Yeah. And I ended up going to school for 4 years for music, hooking up with Troy Harmer and Mike Scott, and we had an array of bass players in that band, but that was my first pro band, Apostrophe. Local cover band, bar circuit, but we were busy, man.
Yes.
It was the tail end of the 90s.
So you guys a cover band?
That band was, right? Yep. Apostrophe, it was called, with Troy Harmer and Mike Scott. Yep. And great musicians, great guys. We're still friends to this day. Yep. They were... Mike played in my parents' 50th anniversary. We'll get into that later. Anyhow, we got out there, and it was before the bar circuit really started nosediving. Yeah. The smoking bands.
Yes, I was going to cite the smoking. There's stuff when Ryan and I were in Captain Easy and it's stage shot, and I got a smoke in my mouth, and it's like, okay, that seems foreign to me now.
As a lead singer, the smoking band was awesome, because I don't remember how many fucking gigs where I was dying. Yeah, just to get through the gig, because you're from the knees up, you're in a cloud of freaking smoke, and you can't sing in that.
The smoking band was a kiss of death for a lot of clubs.
It was though.
And it should be a choice. You should have a choice. It shouldn't be communism or socialism. You can say, "Hey, I'm a club owner, and I choose to allow smokers in my club." Hey, if you don't want to smoke, don't come in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
And they shouldn't have to actually sign something at the door. It should just be understood that this has got a sign that's on the door that the city provides.
Smoking, non-smoking.
At your own
Pick
risk.
your fucking club.
Don't force feed me shit from the government. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Well, you sound like a rocker. You sound like someone who's got that rock and roll attitude.
This is a fucking rocker.
Exactly. Who were some of the early influences for you that made you want to get into music, especially as a guitar player?
I started as a drummer at about 12. I switched over to guitar when I was like 14. I got a Deep Purple Machine Head album for Christmas, and I was just gone. I just couldn't believe the stuff that Blackmore and Gillian were pulling out of their hats. And they just pulled rabbits out of their hats for a couple of decades. Yeah. I think one of the all-time most favorite live concerts I've ever seen was the Deep Purple Burn performance at the California Jam with that bass player.
That would be Roger Glover, right?
No, it was the guy that could really sing. I can't remember the guy's name. And they had Coverdale on there, but the bass player did all the
stuff. You know what? I can see his face. I can't remember his name.
Right, and he disappeared off the face of the map and hid after he became so famous that he just fell into a bag of something or other and fell off the planet for a couple of decades.
Machine Head was the first CD I ever bought. Very first CD.
Glenn Hughes. His name was Glenn Hughes.
Glenn Hughes. You knew it would come. That was good.
Yeah.
So like that band, big influence on me too. John Lord, like the sound of playing that Leslie through a Marshall, like that blending of sound where it's like that, screaming.
He was the first evil genius of the keyboard, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In rock and roll.
And to call him a jam, I understand that, but it's like that improvisation that where you could tell that's what it's based on.
Yeah.
And it's funny because story when I guess Ruben was working on the last Black Sabbath, the new Black Sabbath album, or Black Sabbath 13. He said, listen, you guys were a jam band, and for years you've been doing cut and paste, and people have been coming in on Thursdays and coordinating schedules. You need to play together and kind of grow something holistically. Was that like an influence on both of you, like that, like to actually get in a room or like how do you approach music as a
lot of the stuff I've ever wrote, I've generally always worked with a guitar player. And like for a lot of the Animate stuff, the very beginning of Animate, when Kelly Caroluck and I first started working together and writing together, we were with Darcy Patrick and Jay Lum, and we kind of jammed things out in between cover band rehearsals, right? In between cover band rehearsing cover band songs. And Kelly'd come in with a riff, we'd all collectively work on things. But for the most part, that was just the first Animate album.
Well, tell me, back up. Tell me a little bit about Animate. Like, did it become an identity, or did you have a predetermination of what this band was going to sound like?
It was
going
actually
into it?
It kind of, the original material just fell into place for Kel and I's desire to be creative, because we were a cover band.
Yeah.
Apostrophe ended. 7 weeks later, Animate did its first gig.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. And at the Van Club in Beamsville, Grimsby area.
Yeah, nice.
We cover band came first, get the money rolling in, and Kel, I don't remember who pushed for the original stuff. It probably was either Kel or I, or both of us at the same time. I don't remember which, but Kel would come in with a riff, guys would jam it a little bit. I'd try just scatting some.
I'd like to ask, when you switch from a cover band to an original band, how did you even get a gig? Because Helix had a real hard time when we were a cover band. We switched to original music, and nobody wanted to hire us because we were playing cover songs.
Well, we were pulling the plug on Animate, the cover band, and by the time we pulled the plug, Kel actually, I think, wanted to pull the plug on the cover band, wanted to quit. And by that time, we had written about 5 songs. And I'm like, well, why don't we still got Brian Gould playing drums with us by this point, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't have a bass player, I don't think, then, so I talked Kel into, let's at least record these 5 songs. Let's get in the studio and record. So all that time and energy and creativity didn't go to waste. And he's like, well, who are we going to get on bass? And I talked to a friend of mine from Smithville way. We had a mutual friend. Well, I didn't know the man. He had a friend, Joe Varga. And I thought, I'll grab Joe's number, because I always respected Varga and what they did, right?
Yeah.
And I thought Joe was available. Varga wasn't doing anything at the time. So I got his number off a buddy of mine and approached him. And he said yes. And basically hired him on, get $100 a song or whatever it was, learn these and join us in the studio. And he did.
And that was back when the Dead Sea was still sick?
Yeah, no, it was.
Christ was a cowboy.
Christ was a cowboy.
That would be around 99.
A cowboy.
How long was Joe's hair at the time? That's how we can,
Joe had short hair.
Joe had short hair, so it was post
hair.
early 90s hair.
So, yeah. Not like the one he put on Facebook today.
That
which
was a beauty.
Excellent
Nice job, Joe. That was great.
I have very short hair. And I am my own hairdresser.
Yeah, and the look is really important when you're doing music, especially if you're doing thematic music. You know, you got to look the part. To a certain extent. So
and who doesn't like a singing light bulb on stage, right?
Exactly. Okay.
So Joe gets in. Joe came into the picture. We recorded those 5 songs. Joe went and did his own thing in his own studio and manipulated those 5 songs, kind of funky, weird mixes, and we released that. And we had a blast. It was a great time. And so Joe and I sat down and started writing together. And that's where Casual Addiction came into the mix. Brian Gould still played drums on that. Kelly on guitar.
That's a good title, by the way.
There's a story behind that, but I'm not sure I
There's
want to get
always
into
a
it on
story
air.
behind that.
I don't want to get into it on air. So Kelly and I wrote the first one. Joe and I wrote the second one. And the third Animate one was just kind of the leftovers. And then that kind of petered out, except before it petered out, by the time your twin brother was in the band.
Okay.
We were gigging somewhat, and Brent Doerner, his twin, ended up laying down these 3 tracks. This is like 7 years ago. The tracks that you're going to hear tonight, or 2 out of 3 of them you're going to hear tonight. And he laid down those drum tracks. They were unreal, unbelievable tracks. Like, Brian killed himself.
He's a pretty good drummer.
So, who else in your family was playing? Sorry, shortly, because if the 2 of you play together, were you the only one playing in your house?
Actually, my dad and my brother Larry played clarinet a little bit, and my older brother Tom played bass a little bit, but my twin brother and I took off running with it.
Yeah,
right?
Clearly.
And now, like a drummer, very much like a bass player, will change or set the tone. You know, if you're working on a project.
Working with Brian was incredible. Like he is a machine.
Yeah.
He laid down these tracks in the studio. Jordan Abraham and I, got behind the computer and analyzed his tracks. And they were like, it took 3 takes on all 3 songs. We killed him. He actually had to back out of, he was in Saga at the same time. And he actually had to back out of a tour that they had booked immediately following our session because he hurt himself so bad trying to lay down those tracks.
Oh my goodness.
I think Negas had to sub in for that. And I don't think either of them enjoyed anything.
The process.
It didn't go well.
Yeah.
But anyhow, beside the point, Jordan Abraham and I sat down and looked at Brian's parts on the computer, and they were mathematically perfect.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
With
Data from Star Trek could not have played them better, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, so that happened, and then everything just died, and it stayed that way for years.
Why?
I had health problems.
Yeah.
I had problems dealing with my health problems. I kind of
Was it
medicated myself in all the
Yeah,
wrong
was
ways.
it's
was it
a
a
common
casual
thing.
addiction then?
It's called the musician's mindset, right?
So all of that just kind of petered out, and I got lost for years.
Yeah.
And when I cleaned my act up and started really thinking about music again, I couldn't leave those drum parts alone.
Yeah.
They were too good.
Stuck in
and there
your-
was no way I was not going to have Brent Doerner parts that were that good. My pal, a musician that I respected, all the Helix guys have been around for 20 years, right? Vollmer and I go back almost 20 years. It had to be done. So I talked Kelly into it. And, I'm not sure how game he was, but he went along with it anyhow.
That's
And,
a trooper of him.
yeah, and we put him down.
Well, I want to spin some, and it's and it's funny because the second song we're going to talk on, doing it in working with Ryan here at Boxo Studio on a it's really a compilation album more than a concept album more than a compilation album, but getting about a dozen artists, and we're doing each songs on well, it's in support of mental health awareness, so that being able to write a wide range of source material for something like that. But it's touched so many of us, and on both sides, we're gonna start with an early one when we were talking about cover bands. I was in a band called Captain Easy with Ryan, and we did this song. You remember that, Ryan?
Oh yeah,
I remember
it's one of my favorite, Wicked Bassline, and I actually played this briefly with Al too. And
Which one?
Animate.
the Psycho Killer.
Psycho Killer.
The first one we're going to play.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, and I remember starting.
Remember, I was your bass player in that band for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
I knocked all the
this was at the beginning of my bad behavior.
and some foggy patches.
Yeah.
I'll need to borrow your memory here and there if you don't mind.
I know
This
I
happens
rattled.
all the time with him.
I
right?
rattled some plaster off of somebody's
Yes.
basement.
That'd be my basement,
Yeah.
brother.
Okay.
Well, don't be a spode.
I try not to be.
But yeah, we're gonna start dipping into some of the great musicality that Al's brought with him over a couple of different acts that he's worked on, and the first one is the great David Byrne classic.
Can I interject one
Sure.
thing on that?
Yeah.
Got to give kudos to Joe Varga on this one. He is unbelievably creative. My vocal, he ran it through a keyboard. Mm-hmm. And I think played it at the same time, like matched my pitches and playing it through this keyboard. You'd have to ask Joe. I can't remember, obviously, but working with him something else.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's
he's
fun.
amazing.
He's great, and as Tommy Gunn would say, a true Hamilton hound. And I'm glad to have him here. We're going to play a little Psycho Killer from you with from the band Anime with our guest tonight at Barbershop Podcast. Let her go, Rye. It's Animate version of Psycho Killer. Interesting. I remember I interviewed with David Byrne at the time, and he struggled with his voice, and his bass player, I forget her name, was saying, listen, to sing ugly is strength, to be able to sing. Don't worry about being pitch perfect. You have to develop your own style. Don't feel that you have to sound like somebody. Was this something that, both of you have...
I like that.
Yeah. When did you, talking about when you play and you're playing for money and you're learning other people's songs and then you make that stretch into your own music?
Well, when I was playing other people's songs, I just took the comedian's approach. I just mimicked it the best I could because I know that's the drunks in front of me, dancing, paying the tabs, or that's what they want to hear. So I actually looked at myself more as a comedian than I did as a lead singer. Mimic the best I could. Like Jimmy Fallon is an amazing mimic.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of the mentality that I took. And as far as writing and creativity, I still don't know if I found myself yet, to be honest with you.
Me either.
You either? No shit.
Yeah.
Eh? After this many years, eh?
Not really.
I don't know if I ever will.
Me
but I'm going to keep
actually.
trying, right?
Exactly, and if you're not, if you're going through the motions, like you'll know, and that's why I say no one ever quits guitar, quits music. They put it down for a little bit, and that's okay. If you feel you kind of hit a rut, but a lot of times when someone comes back to it, they're kind of they're recharged, or they have a new perspective.
Yeah.
Willing to do that. So, what was the kind of like mini step between that CD and the next one? What changed with Animate, and how were you growing?
Animate didn't exist anymore after that.
Okay.
We did some gigs with Brian, your brother. Justin Farragher was on bass. Just gigs here and there. Not very much. It was nothing like the cover band days, right? The gigs were few and far between.
And it's what you understand. Once you make that step where you're doing original music, I mean, even a band like Helix, that to this day you could say, oh well, they're popular. They're in the lexicon. That day wasn't always there. You got to chisel that out yourself.
They didn't want us know how. What we did, we weaned it in. We started adding a couple of originals, like we used to do 3 45-minute sets or 50s.
Yeah.
And we just add a couple of originals here and there. And then at one point we decided we would make one whole set, the middle set, only original. And oh man, you want to talk about pissed off club owners. Like people are there going, we don't recognize this music, and we came to dance and blah, 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 and we really, really struggled. And then going to 2 sets of original and 1 set copy, and then finally all original, that was almost the camel's back broken.
Yeah. And that's something people don't appreciate. There's precious few clubs and club owners, and invariably it's someone who's committed to music, and they're willing to take a little financial hit from time to time to support original music. But you got to have that core following of people who believe in what you're doing.
I don't know if you're going to find that a lot in radio today, like with Chorus Entertainment and everybody else. It's just like the machine.
Yeah.
And the machine just wants to run, and because Toronto's playing it, Ottawa's going to play that same, playlist. I don't mean exactly, but I mean, and across the company, all the Chorus Entertainments, they only play the hits. They don't make any hits. I don't think hardly any Canadian radio stations, like bigger ones, right? Make hits. There's nobody that has the balls enough to go out there and make a hit out of nothing.
I don't think any of the program directors have the
they'll get fired.
The ability. It's all
Chorus and Rogers and everybody else will just blow that guy out the door.
In my opinion, the DJs should be doing the program directing, because I liked it back. This is back in like the 70s. I could be wrong here, but I had the perspective that the DJs were kind of their own bosses and played what they liked, because different DJs had different personalities.
Yes, you were making an emotional investment also in that disc jockey, the music he chose.
Correct.
And they were all different. It might have all been rock and roll.
Yeah.
But it was every DJ had their own thing going. And it wasn't this cookie cutter bullshit like it is nowadays, where you got to have your Nickelback every 2 to 3 hours and fill it in with whatever Nickelback clones are out there, and then add your staple Stone song, staple Zeppelin song, and it's always the same fucking songs.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Someone said a 25, even if it's a classic rock station, the person's had a 25, 30 album career, with 10 to 12 songs per album, and you hear the same 4 songs.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like the Stones, it's always Brown Sugar,
or AC/DC,
no
or
more Stairway to Heaven, please.
But it's that lack, even within that genre and that subgenre, the lack of willing to take a chance, willing to step out, and to that light, I heard that this year is the most LP sales there's been in 20 years.
Excellent.
So
I never heard that.
Yeah. So do you believe that, with what we're doing here, kind of like webcasting, independent media, you think there might be a return to where people have rejected the machine?
I really hope so.
I'd like to say that as I live in Kitchener and I'm approached for videos and editing, that I see a lot of activity in Hamilton. I'm not saying that because I'm here in Hamilton, but when I look around, I see a lot of new acts and a lot of activity coming out of Hamilton, and I think this city is bearing a new musical act, children, baby thing.
I like that. Music baby daddy.
I see that. I see all these great bands coming out of Hamilton that, more so than I can say that, let's say, maybe London or Toronto. I see a lot of great stuff coming out of Hamilton.
Look at Varga's latest release. Back to Joe and his band for a minute.
Incredible.
Enter the Metal. You guys listen to that?
Yes.
Like, unreal.
Yeah, they brought it in here before the official release, and it was just jaw-dropping. And the
Joe
fact
came
that they're
over-
like, you know, it's an 8-minute song, and we don't give a fuck, because this is what we want to do.
And it's like, I love the BMG era Varga, right? But this, when they decided to do what they want to do and only do what they want to do, and they had to answer to no one, look what it produced.
Yeah. And then
The
they have a bunch of
answering to
older
no
guys
one is-
playing like they're teenagers again. So,
Yeah.
The answering to no one is a good way to generate new artists. When, you know, unfortunately for us, or fortunately or not at the time for Helix, it was like, well, we can't accept that song because we're trying to sell this hair metal, and it doesn't fit into that because it's stepping away from, you know, dun 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 dun, dun rock and roll. And, you know, Capitol Records would just say that's not working for us, and we won't accept that to put that on the next album. It has to be all this mainstream rock stuff that's selling right now. And there was really not a lot of room for being creative, and they wouldn't accept it. So that's what we were stuck with, right?
Yeah. And you didn't have a choice, and at least now it may be lost out into the wilderness, but you can do it. You can produce it. I mean, you're still producing videos and you're still producing audio. You can do this yourself, and you can put out world-class stuff, right?
It's the wild, wild west
It
out
is.
there, brother.
And you're a cowboy.
Sure
Fucking
is.
right.
Never mind.
So let's
I was just going to break into Bon Jovi
Yeah,
there for a second.
beautiful.
You know exactly what I was thinking, don't you, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. That would have been good. You should have done it.
So going back to talking about the CD for in support of mental health out, we're going to do here. You mentioned that you did a song called Psychosis, and it was with Casual Addiction. Kind of bring us up to date on what the Casual Addiction project was.
Well, that was something Joe Varga and I primarily wrote that album. Brian Gould played on it. Kelly Karolek played on it. It was an anime, so it was Kel and I's band, but I don't know. Kel must have been busy doing something else, so I just ended up writing with Joe for a while. We came up with half a dozen songs, and we added Highway Star onto that album too, because when we were in the cover band days, Animate closed every single show with Highway Star.
Yeah.
We pulled that out of the hat for the Philosofear show back at the Citadel back in September, because Mike Harshaw really wanted to do it, and it did have a new life to it. But it was, for me, it was so short-lived.
Hey, isn't that on the Deep Purple Machine Head album?
Yes,
And actually,
I think
just
I
read
mentioned
this
that earlier.
Yeah,
Yes, you
I just
did.
read this week that song was born on a bus where there was a journalist and asked about their songwriting process, and they said, well, it kind of goes like this, and Richie started riffing, and it came up, and they basically wrote it while they were in the bus, and they played it that night.
Come
On
on.
stage. That's a true
I never
story.
heard that one.
Yeah, and I just
heard
read
that.
that this week.
I've heard that too. Yes. But back to the song Psychosis. You know, you kind of triggered the memory of that song, but with the thing you put on Facebook, the mental awareness thing you put on Facebook. Well, that song was wrote kind of, my cousin, who is a brilliant, brilliant man, lost his mind to schizophrenia, really, really bad. To the point like he's in a home, he's drugged all the time, and when his drugs wear out, it's really interesting conversation, to say the least. But so when Joe and I wrote that tune, it wasn't something we'd ever were thinking of playing live at all, right? So we did whatever we wanted. And I thought to myself, okay, like some of the conversations I remember having with my cousin when he was not on the drugs that strength of the drugs he should have been on, or multi-personalities, right? So I thought to myself, what would be great for this song is multi-personalities. So I took the lead vocal. Three of us took the lead vocal. I did the first part where I'm that person losing their mind, and I'm becoming aware that something's wrong. And then I asked Brian Vollmer, his old singer in Helix, to come in and do the second part. And Brian's part was now you're aware, you're ready to pull your hair out. You know that something's wrong in your head, so it's getting more severe. And then Joe Varga took the closing vocal, and what he did was so perfect. He went into the stairwell. We hooked up a walkie-talkie to the microphone. Joe went into the stairwell with another walkie-talkie, so Jordan Abraham and I couldn't see him. And he just, ready, go. And he hit the button, and he just freaked. So he's now completely, the completely insane part, really needing that
and
medication.
having that sound that I can imagine how I'm looking forward.
And it was awesome. Like Joe, I would have loved. I wish we had a camera in that stairwell watching Joe do that. That would have been freaking great. Yeah. So we have this progression of illness,
right?
In the song, the lead vocal is a progression of illness over this weird riff that kind of very repetitive, which you'll hear. That was kind of how that song came about, and it really just jarred my memory when you brought up that on Facebook a couple weeks ago. I got to bring this in, and
I'm looking forward to the very concept of conceptual music. And you get to hear it. Psychosis, barbershoppodcast.com.
Psychotic suicide, characterized by the loss of consciousness and pride. Noticeable internalization and hellish function. Disintegration of personality, asbestos disorder, feeling fried and losing my fucking ride,
Betrayed dishonesty, deceit, seduction, evil, ominous, sick, unsavory, violence, death,
barbershoppodcast.com, bringing you each and every week some of the best music right out of Hamilton, Ontario. We heard right from Brent Doerner, it's happening. So if you want something to do on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, you can bring in your butt into Hamilton, and somebody's going to be playing some great music, and you can pour some beer. They serve delicious booze at many establishments. I want to give a little shout out to a couple people joining us tonight, and when we have live performances next week, well, we'll flash them up again on the screen, but we got Chris Crash and Suzanne Kirkwood over at Crash Landing on Canna Street. They've been part of the Ottawa street scene for a long time. And again, with the live music business, there used to be a lot of music stores everywhere, in cities. And Hamilton's a pretty large city. And there's not too many places left anymore. So one of those places are, you want a set of strings or some picks, some chords, and they've got some neat stuff in there. And Chris is a big part of the the punk scene, and he's much more than that, but very very supportive, and a trooper here in Hamilton for what's going on. Appreciate their support. And our good friend Maggie, you may remember from our 1-year anniversary show, she came in and knocked the socks off everyone with her great voice. She's got a business, hamiltonartist.ca. She'll put your image of your band, your business, T-shirts, mugs, keychains, tape dispensers, you name it. You want to do some merch, you talk to Maggie, and that's hamiltonartist.ca. And of course, Boxo Studio, where it all happens. We do some nice work in here, some recordings. It's a relaxed vibe. You want a video, Ryan Cannon shoots some nice videos. It's a place. Hamilton is where you want to be. There's some good stuff happening.
I agree.
Yeah, here. And it takes old guys like us to keep the fire going sometimes.
Speaking of Crash, sorry.
Does my fat look fat?
No, black slimming. So speaking of Crash Landing.
Crash Landing.
Yeah.
I walked in there for the first time like a year ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Started thumbing through their albums. And do you remember that Ozzy Osbourne EP? With Suicide Solution,
Dr. Mr. Crowley. No, okay,
Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, and You Said It All.
Yeah.
I stumbled across that in there. Mint condition LP. Got it for $15.
Perfect.
I hadn't seen it since like when it came out. Yeah. And I remember I didn't want my parents to hear me sing. I used to put one speaker here and one speaker here and just fucking scream my head along to that album, man.
Yeah.
So it was so cool finding that again. It's such a cool little shop.
Yeah, and God help and support these independent businesses. These are people who are bringing vitality and uniqueness, just like music. They're bringing it to your city. Get the fuck out of Walmart, okay? That's a fucking company that will never throw me a dime. That doesn't give a shit about me, and they don't give a shit about you, okay? If you can buy it locally, do it. Support the people who support you.
They're not going to throw us any money now.
Suppository.
I forgot to tell you, I had a Walmart.
Did you get a
ad spot lined up?
Did they return our email?
Well, I don't think they're going to now. So
I'm not too worried.
Way to go.
Not too worried about that. So there was a progression. Did you have much of a downtime? Like, it sounds like you had material constantly coming out, but you didn't have the vehicle, as far as a band.
I still don't at the moment.
It's a process, right? We'll get into that.
Yes.
But what was the next step? Where did it kind of the music game take you after you
straighten my shit out?
Yeah, and
well, like I said, getting back in the studio and picking up where Brent Doerner left off with those drum parts.
Yeah, stuck in your head, and you had them on a file somewhere.
Yeah, thank God Jordan Abraham found them, man, because we thought they were lost forever, and he managed to he scrounged them up, and there they were, and we just built it up from there. Right, I think the most gung ho on doing it. And it's something I couldn't let go, and I gotta give hats off to a buddy of mine who passed away about a little over 2 years ago, who he see me as my old roommate, and he see me I was starting to get my shit together again, so he kind of grabbed the reins and put a little band together just to get me off my ass. Cover band for a couple shows. It was myself, Don Dory, who rest in peace. Kelly on guitar, Dane Shaw on drums, and our friend Tyson on bass. Cade decided to sit in on it. It was just 2 shows we did at the Doors downstairs, but it was my first shows in years, And I'm so glad we did it because it really got me motivated again. And I brought Kevin Hall from one of the Toronto film crews I worked with for Don Dory's project. And I had him come out just with one camera that night. And the second night, unfortunately, the first night, the first show we did was awesome. Like, we really played well.
Right.
Hang on, I'm forgetting somebody. Was Jordan Abraham in it? Yes, Jordan Abraham was in on that too, I think.
And what year was this?
This is 4 years ago,
Okay.
roughly. Maybe 4 to 5 years ago. Something
2010 for those of you watching 150 years in the future.
Something like that. I'm really glad we did that. You know, the second show was the one that got filmed. It was the lesser quality of a performance.
Right.
But the cool thing is we captured Don live on videotape. So after he passed away and we started, you know, finishing all his music for him, I wanted to, I went through all my archives of shit and I found this little videotape.
Great.
And we popped it in. Lee Williamson was over at my place and we popped it in. Lee and I and Don lived together for a while.
Right.
And we popped it in like fucking, I'm having to take a second here just to.
So these were
compose myself.
this was like the very first breaths, pretty well, of Philosofear.
Well, no, this was yeah, I guess you could say that because I was starting to get my
Embryonic.
shit together, right?
Yeah.
It was the stepping stone I needed to get gung-ho again.
Right.
Right, because doing the creative, the original stuff, and that's a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
And those two cover band gigs.
Putting your toe in the water.
Yeah.
Seeing how it feels.
Yeah, and it
Well,
felt fucking great.
Felt great, and you get to see it. This is something you can see if you get yourself a live experience. You're on your way home. It's 8:00. Pop in. Come into one of these establishments that has live music.
Yeah.
You might.
Doors is almost Doors is almost like 5 nights a week of live music now.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah, and they've been sticking.
Good on
they've
Tyler,
been sticking with them. Yeah. Right
Great-
here in
great
Hamilton,
club.
Ontario. All right, Become the Rage. A little video for you from barbershoppodcast.com.
This is called Become the Rage.
always rocking and rolling here at barbershoppodcast.com. We've got Mr. Al Packham of Philosofear fame, who's in the studio with his good buddy Brent Doerner from Helix, who's roaming around the house. I think he's riding a dog right now. But talk about songwriting and talk about lyrical content, especially when you're writing an aggressive form of music. A lot of times they contain incredibly profound, deep lyrics. That last song that we saw, Become the Evil?
Become the Rage.
Become the Rage.
It's one of my personal favorites lyrically. It's kind of my disgust at how the music industry is viewed, how it is approached.
Yes.
The Simon Cowell approach, really.
Yeah.
Right? I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I really, and it's come up with some great artists. I can't deny that. But at the same time, too, it's wrong.
It's factory farming for music.
It is, and Dave.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's a really good way. Dave Grohl put out a comment not too long ago, and man, he's everything I wrote about in that song.
I remember that. Ryan, can you do a
summed
Google
it up.
search and see if you can find that?
He summed it.
Yeah,
up.
I got it here.
You got it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you read that? Because basically, that says it all. What I wrote about in Become the Rage, what Dave Grohl said, he said it all.
All right.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite quotes from him, too. When I think about kids watching a TV show like American Idol or The Voice, then they think, oh, okay, that's how you become a musician. You stand in line for 8 fucking hours with 800 people at a convention center, then you sing your heart out for someone, then they tell you it's not fucking good enough. Can you imagine? It's destroying the next generation of musicians. Musicians should go to a yard sale, buy an old fucking drum set, get in their garage and just suck. And then their friends come over and they'll suck too. And then they'll start a shitty band and they'll have the best time in their lives, and then all of a sudden they become Nirvana. Because that's exactly what happened to Nirvana. Just a bunch of guys that had some shitty old instruments, then they got together and started playing some noisy ass shit, then they became the biggest band in the world. And that can happen again. You don't need a fucking computer or the internet or The Voice or American Idol.
Well said, Mr. Grohl.
Yes.
Fucking right.
It's nice that someone
is the
comes
man.
in. Yeah, and you get enough commercial success that someone will actually write that down for you.
He nailed it right on the head, man. He did. Like
While we were watching the Become the Rage video, we were discussing the fact that for me as a musician, I don't care if the chick is sexy or not.
Yeah.
I don't care if you can friggin' dance. It doesn't matter to me. I'm a musician.
I want to hear
some music. I don't care if you can dance. I don't care if you got nice legs and big tits. That's not music.
back in the 70s, I think people appreciated musicians a lot more than they do nowadays. Today is just feed the sheep drivel.
I've mentioned this before, and I'm embarrassed to say, but late night when you're up and you don't have a lot of channels, one of them was those great 70s hits they're selling as a package with records. And I remember they would play Steely, when they were to do Kirshner's, or there would be some video of Steely Dan or Christopher Cross. And I remember looking at these guys and thinking to myself, oh my God, how did they get a contract? Because of the way they looked. Because it was about music. And then I caught myself actually having been corrupted to the point where I was judging someone who is a million-selling artist, how they got a contract with those buck teeth and that awful haircut. Because, video
they were
killed
real.
The radio star.
They were real.
Well, how do you, because you work in the format, how do you make video, which killed the radio star, bring the radio star back?
Well, I think it's given YouTube and video is giving bands at least a chance at, you're competing with Elton John and the world's biggest stars.
Yeah.
For a shot at anything at all.
3 minutes of someone's time.
Yeah, right. And I think that YouTube allows that. I also see video changing where, there's going to be people that are going to disagree with me, but as far as performance videos are concerned now, and I'm seeing a trend more towards that people want. It's almost like a mini movie that you're shooting. If your song's 4 or 5 minutes long, whatever the lyrics are saying, whatever the topic's about. You're actually really shooting a mini movie. And and they're putting some performance in there, but generally more of a mini movie, right?
Yeah, and that's hard because
That's
I
a
worked
trend I'm
one
seeing.
with Ryan, and it's like you leave so much on the floor because to fit a whole theme in a song is a craft without it being disjointed and jumping all over the place. If you want to actually do that in the space of a song and have it work, there's a real skill to it. And it's nice, just like studio work, everyone can afford to get in the game, but it also provides where the geniuses, can pop up where it's like, but he didn't have a lot to work with there, but he used his imagination, and he made a really interesting video where just like the musicians, he didn't fall into convention and do what everyone else does.
And that's what they're saying too, that the people these days are tending to lean towards more watching YouTube than they are watching TV.
Yeah.
Because first off, they're not feeding you Swiffer and vacuum
No
cleaners
commercials.
and
That's worth the price of admission
and
for me.
laundry
Right
soap,
there.
right?
Yeah.
So you can pick and choose. And geez, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll click that because it's
Yeah.
weird, or maybe I'll click on it because it has 30 million views. Who are these people?
Yeah, or the
Right?
fact that you can now, people like us who have a independent media show out of Hamilton, Ontario, someone in Brisbane, Australia with a 70-inch TV set, 7.1, could subscribe or just click us on YouTube and watch this show.
And
Think
it's
of
cool.
it from where we come from, where you had a 50,000 watt transmitter, and to get the chance of being on that show was
Somebody could watch your show in the United States and not also get inundated with lawyer
Yeah.
and prescription pill commercials.
And I believe if just working with numbers, there's people who believe in that. There's people who want the real deal. We talked about that. Let's get going and spin another video, and I want you to help me out when you get to the point where you started working, together on some of these ideas. But Soon for You.
Soon for You is just another basically live video from the Citadel gig, kind of like Become the Rage was. There's not much. There's a personal story of mine to the lyrics. There's not too much other than just this is a live performance video from the debut of Philosofear, which was also the demise of that lineup.
Yeah.
But
That was a
Philosopher will
great show,
move on.
too.
It was a good show. And it was a good start.
Nice theater, nice crowd, great sound,
Yeah.
great performance by the band. I felt as one of the 3 camera guys that were there that night.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just go straight into it. This one's kind of self-explanatory. The next one is got some story to it.
Well, here you go. BarbershopPodcast.com.
This is called Soon for You.
Inside, breathing a new life.
Philosofear coming in here at Boxo's studio at barbershoppodcast.com each and every week. We got Al Packham with Brent Doerner, and of course Ozzy, who's made an appearance, as he likes to each and every fucking week. Come down and invite himself to the set. Or Joaquin, that's right. His name is Joaquin now.
And he's got an affinity for you,
Yeah,
brother.
he likes you for sure.
He does.
So the music, now you've got something that you feel is got mass, and are you starting to write more like prolifically at this particular time?
I can't help but write I can't help but write prolifically right now, simply for the fact that I'm in the studio working with Joe Varga on a song right now.
Right.
And I wish I had a little clip to bring you tonight. Joe's him and his bandmates are all so
Amazingly
over
good.
the top.
Yeah.
And to work with Joe's one of these guys, just a million ideas,
Yeah.
right? And so we've been working on this song. It's actually an old Animate song that we've kind of threw out the rule book, and it's one of the tunes that have always bugged me. You know, I can say, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that, about half the songs that I've released. But this was one that's always really bugged me, and I fired it off to Joe. I went, hey, I released this, by the way, and listened to it, and I go, I'd love to redo this song and redo it right. So, of course, Joe listens to it, and the wheels get turning, and he calls me up, and he sends me first a kind of a new version of the old song. About a week goes by, and he sends me this 1 minute bit. And he's like, I had an idea, and it was kind of like making it more Testament meets old Judas Priest version. And I'm like, awesome.
I like the way
Click
this is
on the
sounding.
mouse, and it's just like, holy fuck, this is great.
And this is what you're working on now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add it to the Philosofear set when I get a band back together again.
Nice.
I'm not rushing that whatsoever. Brian Doerner was gonna rejoin my band. And play with us again, but he has an offer right now that I just can't trump, right? I can't top it. So I'm just sitting back and relaxing right now, having fun rewriting this song with Joe. Philosofear as a live act will fall into its place eventually.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, too, I'll be able to play Animate stuff. There's a Don Dory track that we did when we finished his music up. There's one track that'd be perfect for Philosofear to play, and I sang on it. It's the only metal kind of tune that Don ever did, and I'd love to keep that song alive in memory of my brother, right? It's my
You're like
best
a
friend.
musical sommelier,
I don't know what that means.
That's the guy who tells you what wine to drink with dinner, right? He comes in and says, okay, I'm looking at this, and this has to go together, and I'll wait till Thursday or next year.
Yeah, I can
till it
wait.
goes-
Listen, in the past 2 years, we did finished both of all of Don's work, 2 CDs, full-length CDs, a 1-hour tribute film to him, plus the live performance. I did the Philosofear EP, 5 videos that went along with that, and I also put together a band, and I got to play with Ray Lyle for the first time. I've known Ray for almost 30 years. First bar band I ever seen, Ray Lyle.
Really?
And yeah. Out in Tilsonburg, the
Wouldn't
Royal
you know
Tavern,
it?
I think
Yeah.
it was.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, I was 17. Anyhow, I put a band together for my parents' 50th anniversary. Hi mom, hi dad. Ray was in it. Some other friends were in it too, and did a 1-hour film for it. And so when Philosofear, the 2013 lineup imploded, Brian told me he was going to come back into the band, and he was pushing me forward. Let's go, come on, let's get the other players. And we were both looking around, and nothing really happened. But then he had another offer come up,
Right.
and he had to take it, and I don't blame him in the slightest.
Yeah, and that's part of the business, right? Knowing
I
that.
just looked at it like this. I'm having fun working with Joe on this song. I got to sit in with Varga at one of the rehearsals. Sweet. What a fucking blast that was, doing some Priest.
How's Deuce as a guitar player, right?
They're all
so good. Yeah,
so good.
damn.
And Lee Williamson, Deuce's
Yeah,
brother, sat
yeah.
in that night too.
Yeah.
Fun.
No slouch.
Fun stuff. I got up with Walter James's band up at the Poorhouse one. I got up at Troy Harmer's band one night at Stonewalls. Just have fun
Yeah.
and chill the fuck out for a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome. let the shit fall. Let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah.
It'll get back together when it gets back together, right?
Exactly.
I just invested a ton of time in these videos. I'm gonna promote the shit out of them.
Because that work needs to be done.
Absolutely. Robert Bursey.
Yeah, Rob Bursey.
Rob Bursey. Yeah, he just ordered my entire catalog and a T-shirt.
See?
And simply because he's seen some of the videos on YouTube.
Excellent.
Right? We got this fan in Iran.
He's metalrules.com.
Yeah, metalrules.com, exactly.
You know, I got this fan
Rob,
in Iran,
you
and that's
rule.
not the first line of a song that it should be.
So just have fun with what I've already got.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, let's spin the video for Misery.
This is a pride and joy.
It's a pride and joy. So tell me about the process.
It was a song that was originally inspired, like lyrically, by Metallica's video 1, the story of that soldier. Right? That I always found that video very dark and disturbing.
Yeah.
And I tried to put myself in the mind of that soldier, how fucked that situation would be. My grandfather was a World War II vet. He would never, ever talk about the war. You couldn't even address it with him, right? Yeah. So it's always had this little bit of a fascination with me. So we wrote the song Misery. It's a war epic. You know, it's a long song. When Brent got to work on the video part of it, he really grabbed the reins big time. Kudos, brother. Great job.
And for you, as someone who's a videographer who's working on it, is a long song something that you like, that you embrace, or do you kind of dread it until you actually hear the song?
Do I dread it?
Well, if it's a long song, like, do you dig that? Like, if you're someone who's making a video, do you like the fact if it's a longer song?
Well, editing wise, it's like editing 2 songs for one.
I dread it. I dread it.
I got my money's worth.
Because I'm curious. Like,
I'm thinking of starting charging by the minute.
Okay, because I'm curious if it's more frustrating having to leave so much on the floor because the song's not long enough, or if you've got a long song and you can get your ideas together.
Well,
easier.
I knew, it was war-oriented lyrics, directed that way, and I understood that. We also understand that all the war footage was filmed with all of our tax dollars, and therefore it's public domain.
Right.
Therefore, I can just grab any war footage I'd like and put it in because we all paid for it with our tax dollars. So I put
pragmatic
war
view.
is not pretty. So I put the stuff in there.
That wasn't pretty.
And I guess there was some
pushback
discussions on how gruesome can we get here, right?
Well, it's the fact that I watched war movies up to the age of 13 when no one bled. People got shot and no one didn't even bleed. The holes ripped in the size of a dinner plate.
Ryan will respect this. Edit a war epic video and watch it a frame or 2 or 3 seconds at a time when you're adding all these pieces in and you're getting to see this shit over and over and over again, close up, slow motion. It's not like when you're watching a documentary on National Geographic and it just breezes by. Oh, that was gross. Watch it where you're seeing these still frames.
Yeah, you need to be shocked. You need to know what war is all about.
Disturbing.
How freaking horrible it really is.
It is. And that's why what Brent did in this video, where there's 2 versions of this video. The kind of PG version.
And then this one.
Wow. Graphic. Jordan Abraham and I put about a 1-minute intro prelude to this song where we had William Lyon Mackenzie King start speaking first, and his part of the speech was looking for reason in this insanity. Yes. Then you have Franklin Delano Roosevelt's famous speech overlapping Mackenzie King's, who's defiant at what just happened to America with Pearl Harbor. And then you have Adolf Hitler on top of that, who is just a fucking madman. Yeah. So we put this collage together.
That's for sure.
Brent grasped that collage of voices beautifully, and then my voice kicks in with the story. Anyhow, check it out.
And it's called Misery.
It sure is.
Right here at barbershoppodcast.com.
can foretell the horrors of warfare in land
1941.
Constitution will overtake all tyrants and the dictator of his neighbor. On those who cannot sit idly by and watch the whole world become gradually to the exercise and love and we may rest assured the forces of liberty will rise and the supreme
And that's Philosofear with Misery here at barbershoppodcast.com. Got the guys in here in the studio. So happy that they can bring in some kick-ass videos. And Ryan, who does videos, and Brent, been talking, swapping lenses and talking about the aspect of bringing, original music to YouTube and, being creative, a big, big part of that. So music, where it is right now, you've talked about, where you are right now. What's kind of the prevailing life lesson? If you had to lay something fit on a tombstone, what element has music kind of brought you to the comprehension of life? It's like I find that music is really good at, just like a song will take a whole thought and experience and boil it down. And I think that when I ask musicians kind of about what's their take on music, and often I get something pretty profound.
I don't think I have anything profound. I can't stop doing what I do.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And when I do, it's all I think about. Right? Whether it be sitting down at the piano and just having fun, creating videos with Brent, band, live is obviously an outlet.
Yeah.
Like I'm a
big fun,
high-strung kind of guy, and I never feel more relaxed in my life than after a show. And when I decompress after a show, I feel like,
a centering experience.
It is. It really is. Good show or bad show, doesn't matter.
Right.
There's certainly something to say about that live show. Like, I've probably played thousands of them, and I'll tell you, when that sound guy, we talked about this earlier, when the sound guy or the road manager says 2 minutes to show, everybody in the band goes, I gotta go for a piss. Everybody, it's just a nervous thing. I don't care if you played 2,000, 3,000 shows. It's just that's what live is, though.
Yeah.
And,
scares the piss out of you.
It just never, and then, you finally hit the stage and they go, right? And about, if you could just get to like the first chorus or even through the first 4 bars, and the singer starts singing, you're golden. You're good then. But I mean, there's that thing.
You get lost at that
You
point.
can't write that shit down.
As soon as I get past my first sentence or two of the first song, it's all just a blur up until the end, to the good nights, right? It's just lost.
That's the wonder and the beauty of live performances.
Yeah, it's better than any drug. It's such a hit. To be able to feel that. And anyone who's spent 10 seconds on stage is ruined. For any other straight job. I'm sorry. Even if you're really successful, I know quite a few, and it's like, Buddy will pull that out every weekend, and he'll play in his.
Look at Jagger. He's he's on tour right now, and in a month or so, he's going to be a great grandfather.
Yeah, he doesn't need the money.
Yeah, he's got one foot in the banana peel and the other in the grave. Really.
No, that's Keith. Keith's indestructible. He's proven that.
He's outlived them all pretty well, hasn't he? That's
amazing, isn't it?
It is. And I think that's got something to do with the way he's been centered for a long time. He's had a really balanced, profound, outlook on life. He's been very at peace with himself. Yeah. And, God knows it's got to have something to do with how long we kick around here.
That's, to me, too, music, and especially the live performance, the creativity of the studio, it keeps me the teenager.
Yeah. And the people, too, right? The people that you meet are some of the best people, aren't they?
Yeah, talking to everybody after the show back in September after Citadel, doing a theater show, and, a lot of my pals came out and that, seen the band. Like, a lot of my friends have been to a lot of my bar gigs and stuff like that, but to see something different like that, the feedback was great. Yeah. It really was. And it's just more power to keep fucking moving forward,
You should have seen the eyes in some of the people's eyes that in the crowd that night. Yeah, man.
A little bit blown away, were they?
Yeah. I seen my nephew's eye. They'd never seen a rock and roll show before, right?
Nice. You can be the one to make them first one to expose them to it.
Yeah. 40 Sons and Philosofear.
Yeah. 2 great bands. Both of them now friends of the show. Glad that you guys came in.
I've seen those guys, 40 Sons, TDC, bunch of bands, because I watched your show before. So yeah, I happen to see all that stuff.
And I love that people can bring it in, especially with them, being a rock band and still being able to, pull out performance. You put acoustic guitar in someone's hand to do a little kitchen party thing for you. And you guys felt a little bad that you couldn't come in and say, I would love to, play, but like the same with Joe and Dan when they came in here. They're like, Cav, if you can stack some Marshall cabs or all around the room, maybe Vargo will come back and blow us up. But it's a small place and we can't. I really wish we could. But
you could feel his kit. Luke.
Yeah, I think maybe we'd have enough room for Dan's kit. But you put a little something together for us. So why don't you? So
sorry. Well, first of all, I have nothing on. I have nothing on YouTube or anything where I'm not screaming my head off. Right. I've had a lot of friends that are very supportive of what I do, and I know deep down inside they don't dig metal.
Yeah.
Right.
And they wonder, can he really sing?
Well, here's a little something where. This was just a couple hours before the show tonight. Brent brought the camera over. I sat down at my piano, and we just ripped something off. I'm sure it's got warts. Who cares?
That's what live
music's just a fun little
about.
thing to do. And, somebody can hear me sing in a clean voice instead of me going,
Well, we get a little taste of it right here as things start to go a little bit crazy down at barbershoppodcast.com. We got Al and Brent with a little Beatles cover for No One here at barbershoppodcast.com. Cool.
I'm Al Packham. This is just for fun. It's the Beatles for No One. Your day breaks, your mind aches, you'll find that all the words of kindness linger on when she no longer needs you. She wakes up, she makes up, she takes her time and doesn't feel she has to hurry. She no longer needs you, and in her eyes you see nothing, no signs of love inside the tears cried for no one, a love that should have lasted years. You want her, you need her, and yet you don't believe her when she says her love is dead. You think she needs you. You stay home, she goes out, she says that long ago she knew someone, but now he's gone, she doesn't need him, and in her eyes you see nothing, no signs of love inside the tears cried for no one, a love that should have lasted years.
There you have it at barbershoppodcast.com. A little almost live. Al Packham brought it over here on a snowy night. Crazy, crazy, crazy times here. But I tell you, if we didn't have winter, we wouldn't appreciate summer. If we didn't have, bad times, we wouldn't appreciate the good times.
10-4.
Well put.
It's all about life, and life isn't about steady. It's about the ups and downs. So do a little climbing, do a little sliding, enjoy the times you can, hang around with good people, listen to good music, and each and every week come to barbershoppodcast.com. Join me and Ryan Cannon and whatever amazing guests we have in here. We're really blessed to have Al Packham.
Thank you.
Brent Doerner in the studio tonight, sharing some great stories, some more
Al,
great times. And,
these guys are pretty cool, even having us in, don't you think?
I definitely agree.
Really easy to work with these guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Smooth as poo.
It's smooth, and smooth as poo. That's a vintage classic one.
That's new.
That's new.
That's new. We need a T-shirt. That needs to be a T-shirt.
Hold
on, speaking of T-shirts,
That's a compliment. That's a compliment, you guys.
we got to take a look at this T-shirt.
Yeah, we'll have a little T-shirt. Give us a little shot of your Rob Ford T-shirt there, Brent.
Look at this. Okay. Awesome.
All right.
Just pull it down a bit. You'll see it on camera.
He looks like Jabba the Hutt right now.
Yeah,
there we
you
go.
Look at that handsome devil.
You have more than enough to eat.
That's a conservative politician.
Barbershoppodcast.com. Each and every week, join us. And again, thanks, guys, for coming in.
Pleasure.
Ryan
Thanks for
Cannon,
having us.
You know what? Thanks for taking the Mookaluk Express down here. And the dogs are waiting outside, covered in a blanket of snow. Next week, we're back with Sue Leonard, who we missed, because she was sick, but she's bringing a band in this time. So thank goodness when we have 45-foot drifts, we didn't have to set up for a band tonight. So the gods were smiling at us.
I got a break.
And Ryan got a break. Everything worked out great. Thanks for coming out, guys.
See ya.
Welcome.
Good night.
See ya. Peace.